Today on Sugar Cereal, we're joined by Mr. Vital Akimana. Vital's story is unique, it's inspiring, and it's horrific. In April 1994, the African country of Rwanda exploded into a 100-day slaughter. 800,000 people were killed, many by machete. Close to 500,000 women and young girls were brutally gang raped, sexually mutilated, and often intentionally infected with HIV. It's against this backdrop that a young 9-year-old Vital found himself attempting to escape. And far from being away from all of the action, he is the son of a politically connected mother, and so found himself on kill lists and hunted by militias. His childhood shattered, reframed, and his entire existence redefined by simply getting through this alive. That's the beginning of his journey. Its horror is matched only by the miracle and the effort he has put into his recovery. 3 decades of work attempting to rediscover the elements of humanity that he lost. And not content with simply coping with this trauma like most of us would, he now spends his years spreading the message of peace, giving talks to universities, doing one-on-one wellness sessions, ensuring that the message of peace is found so that no one will have to go through what he did. He's a wonderful man. He's one of those people that you just wish everybody could know. So without further ado, this is Sugar Cereal. My guest today is Vital Akimana, and this is his story. So prior to 1994, what was it? What was life like? Was it just generally peaceful? Yeah. Were there conflicts that was there any stressors on you as a child that you can recall?
Yeah. So I've delved deep into this to just kind of also understand the history that led to 1994. But Rwanda, I would say between 1992 to 1994 was going through this internal change where one party that used to rule them all was kind of now giving way to a multi-party system.
Okay.
And so, but even far before that, I think what I want to address is even though I climb trees, there's like skyscrapers in Africa. There's metropolises that rival your New York City.
Sure.
There is transit systems that are pretty impressive.
Sure.
And even though there's dirt roads in certain places, there are other places that are super developed. So
Sure.
It's the same way you can come from, say, New York City, and then you get to San Diego, and then you drive a dune buggy, and then you find yourself in a desert.
Yes.
In places that may not have, a paved road.
Same. Yeah.
And so that experience exists. And especially now in Rwanda, though, Rwanda is billed as one of the most impressive experiments, right? Especially after war. Okay. It has developed skyscrapers. There is all kinds of pavement in the capital cities. There's Wi-Fi. You have hotels. You have Michelin star chefs, and then down to your grandmother cooking you food on a little, burner.
Sure. So this is a modern culture. There's a modern city.
Culture.
Okay.
But then there are places where you still go, and kids have never heard of hip hop, have never heard of like rap, and never heard of disco, and they don't know your modern dance.
Okay.
And those are my favorite places that still exist today.
Untouched.
Yeah, untouched.
Uh-huh.
And I went back to Rwanda about a year ago and found, these places because those are my favorite. It's such a pure experience that when you are introducing the world that you just came out of to them, they're just utterly shocked.
Okay.
Right. I'm holding a cell phone that has components that is mine 20 miles down, but they have like no concept of what an iPhone is.
Got it.
And then you go to the city and they're like, yeah, of course we know what iPhones are.
Interesting.
So yeah.
It's a huge gap.
Huge gap.
Yeah. Okay.
So now in the development in 1992, now you have like political systems and political parties forming modern democracies or an attempt at a modern democracy.
Okay.
Multi-party system. People are signing up to different parties and and you wear your party colors, and the sense of pride that people used to have about their parties in Rwanda in 1992 was palpable.
Okay.
Right? And
Tense or palpable?
first, it was palpable.
Okay.
Then it became tense.
Okay.
There had been a war in early 1991. But then it was like simmering down. There was these Arusha peace accords, and we were attempting at reuniting this country again, and trying to see what works. So you have parties that were more affiliated to the farmers, parties that were more affiliated to the people who were still in the status quo. And then the tension begins from there, right? So the more people start to show pride, and then how you show your pride, it's almost very similar to like a Sunday afternoon in the United States during football season. So you got folks who are rooting for one team and others who are rooting for another, and so it can get pretty extreme in different places.
Only with political parties.
Only with political
So
parties.
that's interesting because the level of engagement, at
Yes.
least in Western culture, doesn't tend to be near that extreme. Nobody's going to wear a color for anything other than like a convention.
Right.
So so everyone was highly involved in this, it sounds like.
It's right. And that's the interesting part. And the hope was we would continue this path peacefully. But extremist parties soon quickly kind of emerged.
As they do.
And interests when they're being impacted, so if your political party is going to get voted out, that means whoever was benefiting from whatever Western contracts were coming up is going to lose that. Negativity starts to creep in into parties. I'm saying it very mildly and lightly. I'm sure there was more things attached to that. And there was a history of colonialism that was attached to how certain parties behaved and how they looked at different people that were different. There's, propaganda that had been in place for a very long time as well about who's who and who's a Hutu, who's a Tutsi, who's a Twa, the three different groups. All of these all played a key role. And also our neighbors. So Burundi was also becoming destabilized. And so there was an influx of refugees and their stories. And Burundi has also some of the same breakdown, Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa.
Okay.
And so who's being attacked in Burundi versus who's doing the attacking. That was also influencing the kind of politics that was going on in Rwanda.
So it almost as a window into what could be happening?
Precisely.
Got it.
Oh, yeah. No, Burundi, it was a foreshadowing of what was going to happen in 1994. And then you also have this international kind of experience. Rwanda is surrounded by Congo, Burundi, Tanzania, Uganda. At that time, Congo was Zaire under Mobutu. Mobutu was a very long-lived dictator in the Congo. And so there's also foreigners coming in, and there's a lot of interest. And then there's interest from missionaries, and the French at this time were pretty active in Rwanda. Okay. In fact, I think the president had a Learjet gifted to him by the French president at that time.
That's nice.
Oh, yeah, of course. So there's a lot of interest. But also Rwanda is strategically important because of its proximity to Congo. There's a lot of interests that Western countries.
From a resources perspective. Got
exactly.
it. Does Rwanda itself have resources?
You do. They do.
Okay.
But to us, much smaller.
Right. Congo is obviously full of.
Massive.
Interesting.
It's massive.
There's a lot of, there's a long history. Let me be blunt. Let me ask a blunt question.
Sure.
With a bit of a preface. There's a long history of Western nations getting involved in African affairs, African countries, and you mentioned colonialism. That, of course, is where it starts. And to this day, that continues, that level of meddling. Almost, well, I don't know what the percentage of time, but a high percentage of these times, and things end up being worse off for the locals than they do better. Would you agree with that? Is that what influence does Western culture have positively and negatively on Africa, both historically and today, would you say?
So, I mean, if you're working from the 1800s when the Germans arrive in Rwanda, Rwanda became part of Germany's East Africa. It was connected to Burundi, so it was Rwanda, Burundi together.
Okay.
And they were governed by a German governor. And Germany had sent its Scots troops and Bavarian mercenaries to try and like settle the masses there and plant its flag. So that particular involvement shifted the way the say succession of kings and queens was occurring. It impacted how clans were behaving towards one another. You're looking at a situation before the Germans. It's a situation very similar to, say, pre-Shogun Japan, different clans having different specialties, living in different places, or even Scotland, right? The Northern Highland tribes or clans trying to fight against the British. You had your versions of the Robert the Bruces in Rwanda as well. And so then you have Germany comes in and, there's some unruly folks that aren't really going to allow us to do what we want to do with this colony. Let's introduce guns. We've never had guns before. So the introduction of guns alone changed how we did warfare.
Of course.
But also with that, resentment and, long-held resentment comes from those kind of conflicts. When you are used to warfare where your best guys, your braves come and fight that clan's braves, but let's not wage a war of attrition. So women and children weren't necessarily as always caught up the way you're caught up in today's conflict. So that alone is different. So because the mother is important, right? We cherish a mother. We cherish children. A nation that doesn't have mothers or children is a poor nation. You can have all the gold and diamonds in your coffers, but if you're not taking care of your children, your mothers, that's a problem.
Sure.
And
even among enemies.
Absolutely.
The mother was revered.
Yeah, of course. That's a mother.
There was no such thing as civilian atrocities, or it probably was, but
if they
not
existed,
near.
It was taboo, and to do something like that, something must be terribly wrong with
dishonorable.
It is dishonorable, but also you can invoke the wrath of God, right?
Okay.
And so you try not to do those things. It would make you, the ancestors aren't going to be happy either.
Gotcha.
And so you don't want to mess with that.
Sure.
Those are forces that are beyond your control.
And then enter guns.
Changes warfare.
Okay.
Belgium comes in when Germany loses its African colonies. And Belgium, having come from Congo and the history of Belgium and the Congo, which is atrocious, introduced also another element of how a ruler could behave and treat their people.
Okay.
So if you're Hutu and Tutsi or Twa, and those identities could be changed depending on your favor to the king, and he awards you. I raise you to the status. So looking at it from a caste system that existed, those could change. There's some people who felt that it couldn't change. And yes, we are Hutu, always Hutu, been Hutu. We're Tutsi, always been Tutsi, have been Tutsi, or Twa. But the large population of Rwanda before that time kind of didn't know these identities to be solid.
Oh.
Right? There was even a story of creation, right? In the beginning, the God that created the Rwandans had 3 sons.
Okay.
That's the way they used to teach us. So if you're looking at it that this is a family.
You're all brothers.
We're all brothers, right? So it's not, this is an ethnicity, this is a different group than you. Because we're all speaking the same language. We're all praying to ancestors. Like indigenous belief system still had a hold in Rwanda, even after the Germans. So I think Dominicans and other Catholic-related groups were among the first to attempt to convert the Rwandan system. And it took them converting the king in order for Rwandans to be like, oh, maybe okay.
Got it.
So all of that, Belgium comes in and it solidifies the systems that could be transitory, right?
Okay.
So then it attaches some of the pseudosciences that had begun with German pseudoscientists, where they're measuring your brain, your head size, your face. So craniology, a pseudoscience, was used in Rwanda to be able to say, well, the king is tall, and so everybody who's tall must be related to the king or must be related to the ethnicity of the king. So they switched it from the clan of the king to ethnicity of the king. So And if you look at the clan of the kings of Rwanda, they're really tall people.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it makes sense. You're going to have tall kids. And there's scientists who try to justify why they had taller bone features, maybe a proximity to milk, right? They had a lot of cattle.
Okay.
And then that feeds into what that caste was known for: cattle, milk, animal husbandry.
Sure.
Then you look at Hutus, and the way they classified Hutus under Germany and Belgium was related to something called the Hamitic myth, where back in ancient times of the Bible, Noah, his ark, lands in the Caucasoid Mountains, and somehow Noah had a pretty bad night, and his sons found him, but the first son that found him, Ham, laughed at his, belligerency and was cursed. And so then the origin of the African race comes from the curse of Ham. And so that's how the Christian indoctrination at that time went.
Sure.
That the stockier Africans came from, that curse being enacted.
Okay.
And so then you have the Twa. The Twa are more or less the indigenous Rwandans, if we're going to use today's terms, because they more or less dwelled within the forest before the deforestations, and are into art, but tracked animals. And so if you were going to create separations at that time between Hutus, Tutsis, and Twa, there's more similarities between Hutus and Tutsis living at that time than there is between the two of them combined and the Twa.
Okay.
So the Twa were kind of like, no, we're not really going to do any of that.
Okay.
If you look at movies like my favorite movies at that time when I was growing up, The Gods Must Be Crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yes.
We're looking at folks who literally, intentionally, that world of development, cities, cars, automobile, that's madness. The Twa are like, we're not going to go with the madness.
So this does exist. I've heard rumors of this where someone had told me a story that there were still certain cultures in Africa where they had rejected some of the Western modernization that was happening, and had established rules. Now, this may be silly. Had rules similar to, it's hot in Africa, and that's perfectly fine until you have the context of air conditioning, and then all of a sudden it feels hot all the time. So they have established tribal rules that say we don't allow anyone to go inside of a building that has air conditioning for fear of them being dissatisfied with it, which the principle of which I love. But I had dismissed it as something that was just kind of silly, but it sounds like there still are people that are living.
Yeah, very much in alignment with what their cultural tradition kind of dictated about interacting with weirdness. That is advancement. So what we call advancement for them was like moving away from true earth or right existence.
More traditionalists, if you will.
Yeah. And so if you have Twa people at that time, and so it's changed because Twas have also been integrated in the political systems of Rwanda over the years and et cetera. But they really suffered a lot when the attempt to modernize Rwanda eventually reached their forest homes and loggings and all kind of stuff happened. That's pretty sad. And one of the things that's really sad is also the history of the Twa in Rwanda. It's not really talked about. So essentially, Belgium comes in and kind of tries to solidify what a modern society, according to their terms, looks like. And so then we get branded, you're either Hutu or Tutsi, or you come from a Hutu who married a Tutsi, etc.
So all of a sudden, something that is an identity that didn't really matter or was intangible or even immaterial at the time is now become forefront.
It mattered
in culture.
Right. It did come to the forefront, and it mattered in certain instances. So like winning favor to a king who was Tutsi, he will give you a title of Tutsi, even if you say, well, I've been Hutu. And so it mattered to the extent that it either raised your status or created enemies for yourself, right?
So an identity that was bestowed upon you then puts you, as you said, in a bit of a caste system, then puts you at a lesser state unless you were, I'll use the term, promoted to being from a Hutu to a Tutsi.
Precisely.
Which is a great way to piss off Hutus.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, if Belgium comes and say overnight that, you know what, we favor Tutsi folks over Hutu folks, you're going to be like, well, what's wrong with us? There's nothing different from who we are.
Why did they favor the Tutsis?
I think it's all the colonial divide and conquer, right? It's still,
So they just picked one?
Let's figure out who it is that we can manage the most to be able to allow us to do what we want to do with the colony.
Divide and conquer.
It's effective, and it's still effective.
Interesting.
At least my belief, right? Belgians may have a different story around that. I offer them that story, but how it presented itself in Rwanda is they were more in alignment with the king who identified as Tutsi.
Okay.
And then they set about creating education system that favored whoever they favored. That disenfranchised a lot of people who identified as Hutu, who once they did a census seemed to be in the majority at that time.
Okay.
But also remember, the Belgians also redrew lines. So they would classify you as one ethnicity based upon also cattle, right? So if you had a whole bunch of cattle, well, that fits the model of what a king looks like who's Tutsi, and therefore those who have a lot of cattle must be Tutsis. It's these false equivalents that created these ethnicities. So when it transitioned from clanship to ethnicities, there was a lot of false equivalent.
And what is this? What is the end result of this? Meaning, it sounds like there's all sorts of different standards.
Oh,
This isn't like, hey, your mom was so and so, and now you're so and so. If it's based on cattle and region, and then being promoted, what is the end of this? Forgive me, but do you stand in the line and they go, "You're a Hutu," and they stamp some ID card or something?
My dad had an ID card he would have to carry that either identified him as Hutu or Tutsi, right? And
really?
That's one of the things that in 1994 they were looking at. What identity card you have and what does it say? Does it say you're Hutu? Does it say you're Tutsi? It was prominent. Most like Nazi Germany, Scarlet Letter.
Sure.
So your identity was collaborated by the documentation that was established by Belgian authorities.
So an identity that was arbitrarily given to you based on all sorts of inconsistent rules.
Correct.
Was then forced upon you and then forced to identify you, and that identity then became a death certificate essentially for some.
Precisely.
Jesus.
Now, there are other people that love those identities. So there's all kinds of Rwandans, right? There's complexity in human beings. There's some who are like, no, I love being Hutu. Okay. I'm a Hutu man. Or I love being Tutsi. I'm a Tutsi man.
Sure.
Or et cetera. Based upon my ancestor who identified as Tutsi, had a fantastic time conquering that hill over there. So I'm not going to forget that.
Sure.
And if he conquered it and said, I'm Tutsi, that's an identity they don't want to let go of. Or if he conquered it and he was Hutu, that's an identity he doesn't want. Or if a Hutu said, well, yeah, we're strong and we're stocky and we've like cultivated the hills of Rwanda, that's an identity someone wants to hang on to as well.
Sure.
There were all kinds of things that these identities led to, right?
Okay.
Pride, privilege, or death sentence in 1994.
Sure.
So I come from families that are both Hutu and Tutsi.
That was my next question is, what are you?
So that's such a loaded question for any Rwandan. Right?
Why?
Especially right now, post-genocide, it's going to be very hard, especially if you're in Rwanda, to have even this conversation of like, what are you? So
is that an offensive question to ask, or was the tone in which?
Yeah, it isn't to me.
Oh, it isn't to you. Okay, thank God. Okay,
I think it is essential that we talk about these things and where they came from.
Okay, but you don't go to Rwanda and ask which are you.
Yeah, because you got to also be careful about also the laws that tell you there's certain things you shouldn't talk about.
Say more.
Right. So right now, most Rwandan would say, well, we don't do those things. And then there's laws that say basically if you start to use terms like Hutu, Tutsi, or Twa, you're inciting genocide language.
Aha.
So you got to be careful how you speak about these things in the presence of Rwanda. But then you also have memorial that says the genocide perpetrated against the Tutsis in 1994. And that's an official way to be able to record the history of the genocide of Rwanda.
Sure.
Never mind that there was a bunch of Twa that were killed in the process, or Hutus that were killed in the process.
Sure.
But at the same time, I don't want to take away that the main target of the 1994 genocide was Tutsi.
Okay.
Right? Before they came for Tutsi, however, there was my experience as a child of someone who was in politics, where a bunch of folks who were politically active were literally assassinated, not because they were Hutu, not because they were Tutsi, but because they had the capacity to stop what was coming and the targeting that was about to happen to the Tutsis. So that was very clear as well.
These are political assassinations.
Complete political assassination.
Leading up to 94.
Exactly.
What, and give me a, this is 90s, early 90s?
So
okay.
92, 93 becomes intense. So these political parties, I was telling you, people becoming prideful about their political party, extremists kind of like raising up, eventually it comes to head. Now, that particular party leader is a threat because he's gaining popularity. He's a threat to the establishment because who knows, they might be president next. And if he's president next, we get to lose what we were getting from France. Okay. Our Lear jets may disappear, or our, name whatever privilege that's coming with your involvement with a Western power, which at this point there's a lot. Mm-hmm. If you look at the war in 1994 and the weaponry that was in Rwanda at the time, you have weapons from Russia, U.S., Israel, France, China, right? And these were present. So these were groups that had interests in Rwanda as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you've got, leading up to 94, you've got this rising tension. Now you're how old at this point? How old were you in 94?
94, 9, turning 10.
You're 9 turning 10. Yeah. Okay. So this is happening through your 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Okay. What is your memory of this as a child? Because historically, obviously, we can look this up. But your memory of this, your how did this interfere with your day to day?
So when my mom became politically active and after the opening of the multi-party system, she identified with the Social Democratic Party. Okay. And that
What would that equate to in America?
I don't think you have that.
So is it left? Is it right? Or does it not apply?
Definitely kind of left. Because it's the farmers you're identifying with. You are wanting to take the wealth that had been concentrated heavily among a particular class and redistribute it.
More of a populist style. Populist. Okay, so left Democratic, we'd call them the Democrats. Okay, got it. Thank you.
And so now you have those in the political party of the president, and specifically the extremists who were in those political party thinking, well, we can't have a popular movement where the farmers usurp us. So we need to manage that.
Yeah.
So at that time, there was a lot of death threats. So we would have extremist parties come and campaign in front of our house. So it was a regular
death threats to you?
Oh, yeah, my family. Absolutely.
Why would they call out your family specifically? What role did your mother play in this?
So my mom was a chapter leader in the South.
Okay.
And because she had this agriculture background and the daughter of a farmer, and who had gone, so she was the one who made it, went abroad, studied, came back, and was now helping her community. The farmers trusted her completely. And so she understands the game. Well, whatever Marianne kind of like tells us, we'll believe over the guy who just came with his clean shoes from Kigali and doesn't know how to hold, a hoe.
She's a woman of the people.
Exactly.
Got it.
And so a lot of dignitaries would come from the capital city to reach my mom's region, which my mom and my dad came from the last regions named whenever you were doing a roster of the regions of Rwanda.
Okay.
And so they would want to talk to my mom, who's an educated person, and basically try to get her to sway the farmers to be able to vote for them.
Okay.
And so whoever courted my mom's vote, it meant that, she had enemies for the ones that she didn't vote for.
Of course.
And that became very evident when the farmers would create these swing elections. They would create these swings within the elections of Rwanda.
So your mother had quite a bit of power then.
I would say in the South. So she was more so considered a nuisance to the establishment.
Sure. But enough of a nuisance where they're out there demonstrating in front of your home.
Very much so.
And as a little boy, what is your experience with this? Was this scary? Was it exciting? Was it...
It's about as scary as the KKK coming to protest in front of your house.
Violence.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it eventually devolved into threats where they would want to raid your house. And eventually they did. Like on one of our last experiences of our home in the South, they entered. And so we had to escape to the Congo long before the December 93, we spent it in the Congo because it was too unsafe to be in our home.
Because they had entered your home. They had gained access to your home.
Yeah. So my mom got us from the school and, in a hurry. And she was like, we have to escape.
She picked you up from school and you left town.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. And was that shocking? If that were to happen to my daughters, they would be shocked.
Oh, yeah.
They would be panicked. Was that shocking to you, or was that something that was just kind of a natural part of the course of what was going on at the time?
By this time, we're used to moving.
Okay.
But there was an urgency and fear in the way she came to get us.
This was an escalation.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So not quite a shock, but certainly more intense than it should have been.
I mean, while they're creating these political assassinations, the community that was my mom's friends, where we lived in the South, coalesced around us, organized watches for our house. And so we had guardians that would go on top of the roof and in order to allow us to sleep at night so that people won't come and, throw
people doing watches,
torches.
essentially.
Yes, exactly.
Are these police?
No, this is community organized.
Where are the police?
The police were in the pocket.
What does that mean?
So they were owned by some of these extremists. So there's a
paid to stay away.
Yeah. So and also who had an interest. So one of the crazy stories I remember around this time, I don't remember where in 93 this occurred, but I remember my mom had taken me and we had left school, and I used to love to go to work with my mom.
Okay.
So after school, she would take me to whatever other project that was still left. And she would drop me off to some farmer's wife and then take the farmer out to his field to show him whatever it was she needed to show him. And so I grew up with these farmer kids.
Sure.
And so, she'll take her time returning. And I remember she used to drive this Mazda truck. It was a white Mazda truck with a solid grill in front of it. And she came back to pick me up from this farmer's house with an axe lodged in her windshield. Literally, someone had thrown an axe in her windshield, but they kept on driving. So she had a driver who kept on driving to try to get them the heck out of there.
What motivation would someone have to target your mother on a farm? Did they follow her out?
Yeah, no, they will follow her.
Follow her with an axe with the intention of...
Not just an axe. They will follow her, either destroy the bridge she had come on so that she doesn't have a way back.
God.
To trap her. And so... she manages, but farmers loved her. So if they would destroy a bridge within 3 hours, a new bridge will be put down so her car can get past.
Wonderful.
And so I remember she came to get us. I'm like, Mom, do you know that there's an axe in your windshield? And she's like, yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I noticed.
So we get home and we see a convoy of official vehicles parked in our driveway. And then we enter our house, and the community, I guess it would be the equivalent of the mayor, was sitting in our living room drinking our drinks, and he was like, well, I just wanted to make sure you make it home safely. So he had been a part of this, that had authorized it. So he was really more so celebrating prematurely that these guys had found my mom and targeted her, and it was successful. And so we find him in our house drinking our drinks, celebrating that they finally got
sort
her.
of stomping on her ashes, essentially.
Yes, which was false, obviously. And
Harsh.
So he gets in the car and leaves. And this is the same group that targeted my mom in 1994 and threw her in a concentration camp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's get to that. Can we jump into that?
We can.
I watched Hotel Rwanda last night for the first time in sort of preparation for this. And having researched some of the genocide and some of the incidents, I think I get the general idea, but I do know that most people are not familiar, other than the movie, with anything that was going on at the time. And typical, unless you take the time to do the research.
Yeah.
So I also got the sense that while the movie was very moving, it was also very much a PG-13 version of what I later read was an unbelievably horrific situation.
Yes. G-rated more like it.
I would imagine so. And so if you're willing, let's talk about the actual version of what happened. And I'd like both the historical side, if you wouldn't mind, and then of course your experience of it
Yeah.
through your, walk us through the 1994 through your eyes, if you would.
So essentially for me, where 94 begins, we are coming from Congo because we've been hiding in Congo, my sister and I. My mom had dropped us off to our cousins in the Congo because my family used to live on both sides.
Okay.
And so we were coming because there was Easter weekend and we were taking a break. And for a 97% Christian, I would say, Catholics were in the majority, but a 97% Christian country, you know, Passover weekend is a pretty big deal.
It's a big deal, yeah.
And so there wasn't a lot. We didn't hear as many assassinations taking place. We didn't hear that there was threats, and we didn't hear that people were still trying to overrun our home. So it felt safe enough to for my mom to feel like she can go get my sister and I and bring us to the capital city.
Trusting that there was going to be just a natural lull in the violence, at least just out of respect for the holiday.
Precisely.
Okay.
So we're driving up April 5th through the southern region. By April 6th, we are arriving to my dad. We're staying with my dad. My mom continued to do projects, so she went back south. And we thought it was just going to be another hangout experience with my dad, who was in the capital city. And my two older siblings were going to boarding school at the time. And so when my mom leaves, there was an aura of, there's an uneasiness in the capital city, but then again, when has it not been uneasy, especially since the political assassinations? So we didn't really think too much of it. But we knew, based upon the events, the things were pretty, it had become escalated.
It was bad, but it was kind of more of the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Precisely. So then, middle of the night, I think our dad was the one who came to get us because there was a flash somewhere he wanted us to see. And then we heard classical music playing on the radio. And then the radio announcers came, and then they were talking about the president's airplane has been shot down. And, literally the pathway of the plane goes over the presidential residence. We were several blocks from the presidential residence. And so we knew something was off because the plane really didn't land at the airport as it's supposed to. It had been rocketed at that time.
Sure.
And so then after these announcers came and then announced what they announced, classical music played the entire time after that. Usually there'll be some evening program, some radio show that would play on, some comedy or whatever.
So this was different.
It was completely different.
So that you recognized that something was off. Not necessarily wrong at that point, but off.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. It wasn't until the convoys and the roadblocks started to pop up early in the morning. So we're talking 4 or 5 a.m. or something like that. We hear military convoys.
Right.
And roadblocks are going up.
Right.
Soldiers are being positioned.
Okay.
And we were used to some roadblocks traveling, especially with the political assassinations.
Yeah.
Now it's every 2 blocks, 3 blocks from where we were in that residence, there's some sort of military presence.
Okay.
And so then by the wee hours in the morning, sun's coming up, you're hearing gunfire. And it's getting bad.
Okay.
We know that sound because we had been in war, but I know people in Kigali hadn't heard that sound. And so the protocol for war, after having been into 2 wars, was initiated in my family.
Okay.
Get to the center of the house, which has a long corridor, put as many things as you can block on the windows. Mattresses are on the windows to slow down the trajectory of the bullets, and hunker down.
And you knew this?
Oh, yeah. This is the learning that you get as a kid when you experience war at 6.
So there was no instructions to be given. Someone gave the signal, and you all knew what to do.
Gotta be
Even
quiet.
as kids, you were involved in this.
Yeah. Our first war was the shocker.
Got it.
Because we lived next to a military base, and for 4 days we were stuck in the corridor. And we tried to look, and our dad would snatch us down. Because,
4 days?
Yeah, 4 days.
Couldn't look over?
No, it was impressive amount of bullets. That
bullets entered your home.
house. Yeah, absolutely.
People firing through. So was there ever a scenario where the block, like that you said you put up the hallway and put barriers and whatnot, bullets hitting that as well?
Oh yeah.
Lodged in mattresses, that kind of thing?
When the battle was over and we had escaped and came back in that first war, the refrigerator was shot up. My brother's dresser was shot up.
Wow.
The windows of the front was shattered. Bullets. And so 1994 was no different. So the same whizzing bullets, green and amber, different sizes.
Okay.
You can hear different sounds. I got really good at recognizing military weapons because of the first wars. So
You can recognize a 7.62 round versus a 5.56 round versus a...
I can recognize the difference between a ta-ta-ta-ta and then...
Oh, yeah, sure.
There's very different guns.
Of course.
So you have something that's mounted versus something that's handheld.
So before you even reached double-digit ages, you were identifying firearms.
Oh, yeah.
Just having experienced the violence
Correct.
of that they caused. Jesus.
Correct.
Okay.
Because, we are next to a military base and kids are curious after war. You're like, what made the sound that went go, go, go? It's like, well, that's the dismounted thing. And it's like a massive gun.
That's the 50 cal.
Yeah, exactly.
That really hurts.
Precisely.
Yeah, got it.
And so 1994, we are just below the presidential residence by, a few blocks.
And sorry to interrupt you. The president was Hutu?
Hutu.
Okay.
Yeah, Habyarimana is his name.
What is his name?
Habyarimana. Yuvenali Habyarimana.
Got it.
And so the elite guards have mounted weapons. And so over our head, you hear go, 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 go. And it's going over you. And then in response from some region down beyond where we are, ta, 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 ta. It's a response. It's like a call and response with weapons.
Okay.
And so we knew, it's going to be bad.
Do you guys have weapons in your house? Your father didn't keep any kind of firearms or weapons in the house?
Absolutely not. My dad abhorred any of that. My dad is a teacher.
Okay.
He's the head of discipline. So he's, disciplined a couple of people, but
a
it's with a
peaceful
yardstick.
man.
Yes. Yeah.
But a peaceful man.
Yes. Very much so.
Got it. Okay.
And at this time, he's Jehovah's Witness. And so for him, this was like, the end is coming.
Sure.
And really that's what it felt like after having experienced the first, second war. This is now it's worse. It feels worse. And then people are being rounded up. And you could see the convoys going round the clock, people going. And then by day 4, you start to see the dump trucks full of really horrific sights. And they're moving throughout the city.
Having been through this before, you had the benefit, you had the some context as to what was happening. But again, as a child, there was very little. We often turn to our parents for validation on is this okay? Is this not? You had been around your mother and father through prior conflicts. Did the look on their face change your perspective on this? Was this worse and you could tell, or were they scared more than you thought they would be? Or was this just another one of the same?
For sure. My dad, 100% was a little bit more unnerved than we remember him. He's a stoic man. And so it's very hard to even read his emotion. So he was visibly shook.
Yeah.
And there was a radio announcement that came on that we heard actually that indicated that they had captured my mom. They had taken her to a concentration camp and she should not be expected to live. And so,
why would they put that out over the radio?
Because she's the nuisance in the South that they finally have been able to quiet.
This was a celebration.
It's a celebration on
This
the
was
radio.
a victory speech.
Correct. And to be able to break spirits. So any farmers that have a thought of going against what's being planned.
It was propaganda.
You don't have your leader anymore.
You heard this from inside your home?
Correct.
Where was your mother at the time?
My mom had been taken to this concentration camp in the South.
How did she get captured? I assume she was in the home with you.
So later, when we finally reconnected, no, my mom was not in the home with us.
Oh, forgive me. I'm sorry.
Off.
I missed. Okay, your mom dropped. Okay, I missed that part.
No, my mom dropped us off on April 6th. And then continue to do agriculture projects.
Okay, so she didn't stay with you. No. Okay, so it's you and your father.
Yeah,
okay,
they're separated.
Got it. So you hadn't seen your mom throughout any of this.
Only when she came to pick us up on the 5th in Congo
Okay.
and driving us back, stopping briefly at the house in the south, and then continuing
And that was it. Okay.
off to Kigali.
And the next thing you heard about her was the radio,
There she's gone.
and she wasn't going to make it.
No.
What did that feel like?
I mean, my mom was one of my favorite human beings. And it was difficult to be with my dad because we mostly lived with my mom in the South, my sister and I.
Yeah.
And so, it was shattering,
Sure. Did you believe it?
We had no choice but to believe it. And the radio was announcing it. That's the national radio. It's the equivalent of if your CNN and Fox News and ABC were all collaborating the same story.
That your mom's been taken.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is truth.
Right. And if they're gone that far, she's not coming back.
And what's your father's reaction to this?
I mean, again, it's very stoic. My
Sure.
dad does not betray his emotion very easily.
Okay.
And so, but it was stiffer and more, okay, like now this is all we've got.
Okay.
So he was stricter, actually, I would say, to make sure that we're not caught up in that.
Okay.
So we were definitely quieter than we were in the first war and less disruptive to him.
Sure.
And we stayed in that house for about 2 weeks. And then there was a brief pause where the radio announcement came on and told people to go out and cut shrubberies and bushes where people or enemies could be hiding. We got fired on. We went back in the house. And so by 2 weeks, we had seen convoys, horrific dump trucks. We had been sent out, quickly ran back into the house. We kind of had the range. And then there was neighbors who would come and go, and kind of more furious neighbors who would give dad some word as well. So one of the neighbors had indicated that there was a convoy circling around now asking for our name and the family of Marianne and trying to figure out where we lived. And that was really the thing that told my dad that it was time to escape.
Of course.
That and the fact that we were running out of food. And the markets aren't open and you're not going to be able to shop. So I remember when dad came, he was like, it's time to go. We saw the neighbor, very fierce. Like the guy was gardening in the middle of a war zone. But he saved our life. And so it was one of these weird things where the convoys couldn't find us because of something wrong with our address, whether it was a crooked number. They just didn't find us. And he had told my dad that he told the convoy that they were looking for a much richer family and, they need to go further up
Wrong
the
place.
neighborhood.
Okay.
And so that's the thing that saved us. So our neighbors, some weird coincidences with the location of the house, dad gets us mobilized. And then he's like, we need to get to hit the road.
And what does hitting the road look like?
That is walking 90 miles.
90 miles.
Correct.
So you snuck out your backyard basically and
Snuck out in the backyard, avoided unexploded ordinances, and kept on going. So my dad had us wear the most ragged clothes that we had. So clothes that had holes in it, which he would never allow us to wear in the first place. But we're wearing these rags and we're putting mud on it. And he himself took off his glasses. And so like a sign of an intellectual at the time,
sure.
they would stop you if you looked threatening.
So he's disguising you essentially from what your true roots are.
Precisely.
Got it.
And so
Who's with you at the time? Who's this?
dad, my two oldest brothers, sister, me, and a cousin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
He's the only adult.
he's the only adult. Yeah.
Okay.
But at this point, my oldest brother and my second oldest brother and our cousin are technically like adult-ish because they have grown up faster than us, and they know to care for us.
Sure.
Really,
They're in their teens.
they're in the teens,
Okay.
and so their responsibility to take care of the younger ones is gonna fall on them too.
Sure.
So
Did they do a good job at that?
Oh yeah, I love my sibling, my brothers, my sister too. I think for me, I never got to a place where I felt completely alone because there was always one of them with me. Always. And so that's one of my favorite thing about how we moved as a family. It was like better than a military unit. We looked after each other.
Very good.
Or more so, they looked after me a lot. 'Cause, like, I got tired of walking at a certain point.
Sure.
I remember being on my dad's back. I remember my brother Freeman holding my hand.
Yeah.
You know? So these are my favorite memories.
Sure.
Yeah.
Precious memories.
Yeah.
In the middle of a horrific situation, of course.
Precisely. And then my brother Innocent has to be my dad's eyes. So because my dad, he had astigmatism with his glasses, boy. Like, they were Coke bottles, man.
So for survival purposes, he's now effectively
Yes.
blinded.
Precisely.
And now you got your teenager navigating.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so we're going and passing, I think we must have passed about 20 roadblocks before reaching the outskirts of the capital
The
city.
roadblocks are asking you for ID, I assume?
Yeah. So the first roadblocks, mostly military. Who are you? Your ID? Are you Hutu or Tutsi? And so my dad.
Same question I asked.
Exact. Right.
Hence
So my dad having this identity card that says Hutu for him, but the next page over would have identified that he was married to a woman who was Tutsi or half Tutsi, the kids and all of us. So that would have been dangerous. So it was this. This is
But in
his
hopes that they
face.
wouldn't flip
Yes,
the page?
Precisely.
And they didn't, sounds like?
No, they didn't. The military just waved us through.
Sure. So you're friendlies.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about you. They will look kind of side eye my brother, who was too skinny at the time.
Okay.
A little too tall for his age.
Okay.
And so that was a problem. Again, they call back to the craniology and the pseudosciences of measuring Rwandans and determining whether they're Hutu or Tutsi by their height.
I read in one of the articles that featured you had mentioned something about the shape of someone's nose being, explain this.
So and this again goes back to this pseudoscience. So the more European your nose, so if it's not flat and stubby, or flared, they'll say, well, you have a Tutsi nose. And if it's pointy and, and you're tall, oh, you have a European feature, you must be Tutsi. And so that's the way these extremists on these roadblocks, the Interahamwe group, the ones who were perpetrating a lot of these killings, were the extremists. They were to try to identify you this way. And then, years later, I think someone went to Arusha, and where some of these guys were being kept before the War Crimes Tribunal, and asked them how accurate you were. It was a 30% accuracy of who they wanted to target. So a bunch of people.
30%.
30%.
So 70% of the people killed.
Indiscriminately. Or because you didn't have enough money to pay someone off.
Sure.
But also because of those damned cards, so many Tutsi people were killed. Right? So those who identified as Tutsi on the identification cards, without a doubt.
Just instant.
If you have that on it's a letter.
How does that, I want to get back to the history of it, but how does that affect you today when you see certain policies enacted throughout? Is there anything that's happened in the modern days where you reflect back to the identity basically turning into a death certificate and the identity politics that have been of late? How does that affect the lens by which you view some of these things?
I think you're cautious. You're cautious of any document given to you that tells you who you are.
Interesting.
I am always cautious of any document that tells me who I am. Any box that I check, like, what is this going to be used for?
Okay, this is interesting. So all the stuff that we just take for granted, like are you Latino or white or
black or just the Mexican descent, etc. I'm always nervous. Who's collecting this information for what purpose?
So when the option is choose not to answer?
Man, if I could do that, most of the time I want to, but at the same time, it isn't to say I don't feel proud of being an African, for example, right? I know I'm African.
Sure.
Anyone who would have met me while I still had my accent, would have said you're an African.
Sure.
So I want to be clear. My nervousness comes from some bureaucrat determining what that information is going to be used for. Not because someone is like, I'm going to choose to be proud of a Scottish
course.
background.
Yeah.
Right? If you have your Scottish coat of arms in your home, you're Scottish by descent.
Right.
Right? You may not be in the Highlands, you may not be wearing a kilt, but there's something prideful that you have about that.
Yeah.
You know? Or you're British and you're like, well, yeah, we love our monarchs, you know.
That is until they start lining Scottish people up and shooting them, at which point you might have a little bit of a hesitation.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you're not proud of being Scottish. It means
Precisely.
being Scottish
Right.
can cause problems.
Precisely.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
So, yeah. So there's a wariness. It's not as extreme now when I see boxes and bubble and, identify yourself to us, the authorities, but it is there.
Okay.
It's
That's
always
interesting.
there.
So still inside.
Yeah.
Go back then. So you were in the house for most of the atrocities,
Yeah.
at least that you experienced. Now you walked 90 miles. You said you saw some horrific things. Did you ever actually see anyone being killed?
Thousands
Thousands.
of people.
In what context? What
So-
obviously not from inside your home.
Not inside our home. Inside our home, we saw the dump trucks, and it was very clear what was inside.
Okay.
And so on the roadblocks, you could be traveling, and people tend to gravitate toward people. So even when you're trying to flee, you get in groups.
Groups. Yeah.
So you'd have, say, a group of 20 approaching a roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
The first 5 identified by the identification cards as the target are gone in front of you,
Gone.
assassinated.
You're in a line waiting, checking IDs. Assassinated how?
So, I mean, man, find any John Wick movie.
Really?
All the different ways.
Just indiscriminately, right in front of the kids, just whack.
Correct.
What's that feel like as a child?
Terrifying.
Yeah.
So there's a degree of fear you have from mundane fears. Fear of spiders will set people going. Fear of rats. Fear of death. You have a very healthy fear of death.
Yeah.
You don't engage in any activity that makes you want to lead to that. So then you get that fear, and then you start to walk, and you hear the gunfire, and then that fear raises up
Yeah.
another tier.
Yeah.
And then you get to the roadblocks, and you see those people in front of you suddenly are gone, and they're not coming back. That's another tier.
Sure.
And then you have to repeat that. Rinse, repeat 20 times. There is a degree to which numbness has to step in order for your body to continue functioning.
When did that step in?
By probably the second roadblock.
Second roadblock?
Oh, yeah.
So the first one was obviously a surprise.
Yeah. Because we didn't know that was the extent to which people were going to... We had stopped at military roadblocks before.
Right.
When the war was happening in 1990, 1991, we'd been stopped before. It wasn't like that.
They weren't leaving bodies on the ground. Yeah.
Not to that degree. The war in 1990, 91, you had some, but they were like off to the side, or it's because two armies are engaging one another because there's a military base there. You saw soldiers in uniform on the ground. This was different.
You saw blood fly.
Oh, yeah.
That was your intro to what was actually happening was
Yeah.
blood flying in front of your face.
Correct.
Jesus.
So, and is that going to be my fate? Is the question you ask.
20 times.
And that completely vanishes from your head because the next thing is like survival. So you look down and your legs are going. I remember looking down and I'm like disconnected from my legs. They're doing what they're supposed to do. And there is just disbelief that this is happening. Or I'm on my dad's shoulder. And because I'm on my dad's shoulder, there's places now I'm able to see that my siblings aren't able to see. Down the ditch.
What are you seeing?
Horrific.
Bodies.
Horrific.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Did you know any of these people?
They're friends, they're family members that were caught up and swept up in that we found out about later.
Sure.
The ones that were traveling with us, I'm sure my dad knew. Some of them we would encounter on the road.
Okay.
In the first war, one of my dad's best friend was killed in front of us. So it's,
Wow.
these are not combatants. These are not soldiers. These are people literally trying to flee.
Yeah, these are civilians,
Yep.
and we use that term a lot, which is it's disarming. But these are kids.
Yeah.
You were a kid.
Mothers, babies,
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, you just reading books,
Husbands.
watching cartoons, and then assassinations.
Correct.
Jesus. So you go through 20 of these,
Right.
20 near-death experiences or potential death experiences.
Right.
By number 2, the shock is set in.
Complete.
And now your body's gone into full just auto mode.
Fight or flight, survival.
And how did everyone else in all your siblings same?
Yeah, I would imagine, or at least for sure when I talk to them, I know. Like my sister, who we've experienced pretty much almost the same life up to this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be a woman at that time, that is like one of the I think about it, and I think about what my sister went through, that I didn't even have the thought, the capacity to grasp. War is dangerous to everybody. It is especially dangerous to women and children. And so I remember towards the more further out roadblocks, then we're talking someone coming and saying we're taking your daughter to my dad. You have to make a choice between your daughter or your sons. That was a very real experience. Or you're running out of money, like my dad was, and someone immediately identifies my brother Freeman as, yeah, he's a target. He looks Tutsi. We don't care what your identification card says. That's a Tutsi child right there. So slap him on the blunt side of a machete to the side, about to basically take him to the ditch. And we see my dad, he's bleeding. I mean, literally, we ransomed my brother back with a broken wristwatch, his wallet, and a pound of sugar. That's the going price of a life. There are people in these roadblocks where they would pay money to be shot because they didn't want the machete. And some of these were so brutal. They will have blunt objects and garden tools. So there are people who would pay so that they wouldn't die that way. During that.
Say that one more time. There were people that would pay
For a bullet, so that they wouldn't die by a machete or a blunt object or a bat spiked with nails. Or,
so that's such a dire situation that the bullet was was mercy.
yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing this. This is a concept. No one in my life has any concept of anything like this. We all talk about trauma as if we know what trauma is, but this is trauma that we have absolutely no concept of. Do you get bitter about humanity's capability to do these kind of things later in life? We'll get to the details, a lot of that I'm sure in a bit, but having experienced that level of just egregious, horrific behavior, do you lose faith? Does it tear you down to know that that's possible?
There's a huge temptation too,
Okay.
until you realize you're human. The very word that describes the people that populated Rwanda is human, Bantu. Bantu is a word that over 3 million of us Africans know from different tribes and groups and countries. We're human. Humans have this capacity. At the time, it did not look like these folks perpetrating these things were human. They looked possessed. It looked like something out of a Cthulhu novel that some entity had taken over. When you try to understand it, it's baffling. So losing faith in humanity doesn't even come just yet because it's so baffling. It makes no sense why you would do that. What purpose does that really serve? And yet you accept that for someone it did. And so then you try to understand especially if you have to live with human beings. What next? Like, how do you live with humans?
Knowing that that's
We're
possible,
capable of
that
this.
we all have that in
Yes.
us at some point.
Correct.
But okay, so let's go back real quick. So when you started that journey, you had just gotten off the radio, hearing the national radio, hearing that your mother had been taken and was essentially going to be killed. What happened to your mom?
My mom had a completely different story arc than we did. In the South, obviously, she knew she had been hunted for quite some time by the extremist party, the Interahamwe. And my mom hid first in her home, then in her office, then she managed to get to the UN headquarters. I believe there was a headquarters in the community where we lived.
Yep.
And they turned her away because she was just a high-profile target.
Too hot,
Yeah, way too
essentially.
hot.
Yeah.
And so then she moved to a diocese, Catholic diocese. And once again, the same thing happened. And I think she either managed to get back to her office. I'm fuzzy about these details because it's been a while since I've heard my mom's story. But essentially, she ends up in a stadium. So there's this infamous stadium in a region in Cyangugu, the South region, that a lot of horrific things happened there. But before any of that, there was this army convoy that came to round up people, and they would have a list. It was essentially a death list. Mom was on top of that list. And so, they came pretending to be interested in like protecting the people that were on that list. There are people among you who, it would be safer if they came with us, basically. And so mom went with her captors, along with, I think, 20 some odd, 25, 26 of colleagues that she knew.
And they were all duped under the guise of safety.
Mom already knew.
Oh, she knew. Okay.
Yeah, already knew.
Okay.
I think that's one of the things I know consistently. My mom was always thinking about the people that were in that region. And I think she knew how dangerous it was for her to be with them. And after being turned away in so many different places, and for one reason or another, it wasn't hard for her to piece two and two together, especially with the extremists and outside of the stadium taunting and trying to, get people out.
So your mother chose to give herself up as opposed to risk the lives of those protecting her, essentially.
100%.
Brave.
So she went. And so from what I hear, she went, was put in this camp, and, her own personal hell was created. And after, I think, some 25 days, she was asked to go back to the stadium and tell other people that were in the stadium to come out, because at this point, they hadn't just done it once. So when my mom was taken, they went back and took more people, and then et cetera, et cetera. And eventually the people in the stadium got wise, like, these people aren't coming back. And we're not, and some of them would escape and send word, I guess, by whatever means, or maybe something was leaking. I don't know how, but essentially the stadium knew not to let people out.
Okay.
And they tried to band together. And so whoever was in charge of the base that my mom was at, basically was like, we need you to go tell the people that it's okay to come with us.
Okay.
And mom was like, sure, why don't you, fix me up? Obviously, I'm not looking good enough for people to like believe me. And so he attempted to, and when he finally came back to see if she was ready, she was like, well, if I'm good enough to go back, I'm good enough for a bullet now. So she was preparing herself for death. And so in fury, he threw her in a military convoy and commanded the soldiers to basically take her to a death camp, and that she wasn't allowed to be shot. and that, a worse fate was waiting for her. So they started to drive, and they came really close to the Congo border. But what my mom saw was water, and she thought, if I can jump out of this convoy and run, at the very least, if I drown, it'll be a faster death than what's waiting for me.
Sure.
What she tells us is they had a number of different orders, like you would at a butcher shop, for her.
They had plans.
Yes.
Why? Just because of her high profile?
High profile.
Or her refusal to go along with the orders?
Among many other things, that, and just, I think that's the extent to which how sick that experience was in those camps.
Wow.
So she was not interested in that. So she jumped a moving convoy and tried to basically jump in Lake Kivu and take her chances with the water.
Yeah.
Mom is not a strong swimmer. It would have definitely not have been, that would have been the end. But she said that she realized that they weren't firing in the air. They weren't firing at her, they were firing in the air. And they had sent guys after her. And so she was like, well, I can try to outrun them. And she knew that area pretty well, and she knew how far the bridge to Port Authority Congo was. It was a year at that time. And so she booked it to the bridge, jumped the Rwandan fence, managed to get to the gate. But because she had done a lot of agriculture work with the Congolese government, the guys at Port Authority recognized her. So they let her in. And so she created a minor international event between Rwanda and Congo at that time, because these soldiers are coming after her.
And now they're accepting a wanted fugitive, essentially, or a prisoner.
Precisely. And the Congolese guys would never give her up. And again, our family would come and go there. So
sure.
We had literally come from Congo on April 5th.
Wow.
So I imagine she would have seen some of the same guys there. I don't know that story other than what she's told me. And essentially she managed to escape literally the clutch.
Brave woman.
100%. She's my greatest hero.
Wow.
Say anything you want about Marvel movies. They're all a bunch of great heroes. But my mom is literally the greatest hero I've ever seen. She's incredibly brave. I can't tell you, it was night and day. The woman who left us on April 5th and the one who found us, she found us in 1994, late 94. She's the one who found us again in hiding. We heard her voice on a radio when we thought she was dead. Literally, it felt like Lazarus rising. And so, but who we saw...
Oh, she was dead in your mind?
100%.
Oh, so you hadn't gotten word that...
No.
Oh, wow.
No. From April 7th, or whenever the radio announcement happened, to 6 months later, I believe.
You had lost your mother?
Yeah. That was our lived reality, was your mom isn't coming back.
And then she walked in the door.
She spoke on a radio, number one.
Oh.
That in itself was like no minor miracle. So at a certain point, then the war in 94 got so intense. And eventually foreign powers got involved.
Yeah.
Because I think Rwanda was creating a destabilizing impact on Congo as well. And so they intervened.
Sure.
And one of the things they wanted is to have these folks who had capacity with the public to be able to be on the radio, to basically to coordinate movements.
Sure.
So I think it's the UN that got her on the radio to try and have the public move into places that weren't in intense fighting. And so at the end of that radio announcement, when she was speaking to the public, she took the time to also speak to us. And I remember when
she talked to you over the national radio.
And I remember my dad coming to get us, and basically, because it was a repeating broadcast. And he said he had something to share with us. So we were huddled in this little kind of, it was a back house of where we were hiding, that basically like turned this radio on. He loved his radio. And he said, to wait. And eventually Mom's voice came on. And we were like looking at each other, all of us kids, like, this is some sort of trick, some sort of miracle.
Yeah.
We're hearing Mom. And like, I know what Lazarus Rising looks like because my mom did that.
She came back to life.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
I don't know how to tell you what that experience is like.
Try.
I can't. I can't. How do you experience someone coming back to life? Someone you love, someone who means everything to you. So yeah, that experience was a miracle for me.
When's the first time you saw her?
I saw her a few weeks after the broadcast, actually. And by means I'm not going to get into, she managed to find a way to get us to where she was.
Okay.
And she had changed. But she was Mom.
But a different Mom.
Yeah. She was definitely traumatized.
Sure.
I remember when we finally made it back to the capital city and life kind of started to return again before going abroad. She couldn't go to a meat market because the chopping of the butcher's block was too intense. And
Jesus, just that statement alone.
yeah.
The implications of that is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, carry on.
No,
Man.
I'm with that because when you talk about healing journey, it makes everything I've done look like it was easy.
That's that comparing trauma thing we talked about.
Right. But my mom, she's done so much work to even be with people.
Sure.
The way she was when she left that place to who she is now is, that's so different.
Sure.
That is so different. So the earth, she cultivated her way into where she is now.
Okay.
So planting, she was known as Grandma in Baltimore by like all the kids in my brother's little community because
okay.
she taught them where strawberries came from, where tomatoes grew. They didn't know that it wasn't prepackaged in the grocery store.
Oh no. Gather around, kids.
Yes.
You're going to get an education.
100%.
That's cute. That's very cute.
Everywhere we had managed to dwell long enough, Mom will always have plants or cultivate something edible.
Sure.
If she can. I remember one of the cross-country road trips I took to the U.S., and I told her I was in South Dakota, Buffalo Gap, I believe, and that I was seeing buffalo.
Okay.
They were coming to one of my tents every morning. She's like, grab the dung. I'd like to see what I can cultivate. Fertilizer with buffalo dung. My mom would ask me for buffalo dung.
Mom, I'm not going to do that.
Number one, I'm going to be in this car for about a month. And so I'm going to be lugging buffalo manure for a month in the car with, someone who I just, made a profound relationship with. This is like a honeymoon trip.
Sure.
And I'm lugging around buffalo manure.
Sure.
I still got buffalo manure to my mom.
Oh, you did get it.
Oh, I had no choice. I had no choice.
I think she's earned that.
Yes.
But that's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that I've taken bull for my mom.
Sure. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, 25 million people starving in the Sudan alone, right? Africa's got its
These
got,
juxtapositions.
and as you said, Africa's it's certainly it's not tribes and huts anymore. It's by any stretch. It's this is a modern culture with real problems.
Yeah. Multitude of cultures.
Tons. I mean, 54 different nationalities, much less cultures inside of there, and all sorts of tribal stuff, as you said. 25 million people in the Sudan alone. There's no shortage of opportunity. I got 1 million viewers. What can they do to help?
Man, talk to someone from Sudan. They'll tell you. If you have a friend. I mean, there's so many different organizations also wanting to support this kind of effort, but just get informed. Just begin there.
Sure.
Right? I'm not even going to ask you for your dollar to be contributed to anything yet. If you can read and study about Sudan and you are not moved, read about somewhere else. There's enough places in this world that could use just even your knowledge and attention that they exist. Right? Remember the story, Horton Hears a Who?
Yeah.
I got to hang out with the Dr. Seuss crew. Awesome crew. But just...
What does that mean? What's the Dr. Seuss
Dr.
crew?
Seuss. So Dr. Seuss was a writer, and he...
I know Dr. Seuss.
Yeah. The
Theodore
folks,
Geisel.
Yeah, the folks who are in charge of his estate. And
Oh, they're the ones that manage his assets.
yes.
Now. Yeah.
So they were running a relaunch of the Lorax or something like that a while back. But anyways, in the story, Horton Hears a Who is just these who's in Whoville trying to scream their lungs out that they exist. We are here. We are here. And there's so many, that touched me. There's so many people hoping that they'd be heard, that we are here. Right? I know Rwandans in 1994 that were suffering, hoping they would be heard by their friends in Belgium and friends in the United States. There's so many people in the world right now hoping to be heard and for their existence to be acknowledged and recognized. Just beef up on like one of these countries.
Just knowledge. Just learn or look.
You will be moved. It's impossible not to be moved.
I've been moved recently by it as I've gotten more and more into it, and I've been moved to share the message only because I don't believe that it's out of anything other than ignorance that people don't help. There's a certain level of desperation that exists. There are people that need help in all different states, but there's a certain level of desperation on one side combined with a certain level of comfort on another that cannot coexist in a world without ignorance. And I think if you can bridge that gap, perhaps we will have done some good by bringing
100%.
the good. You know, then the question is, you got to weed through the how of it. But as you said, the how is later.
That's right.
Just figure out what to do first.
Yeah. And
what touches you.
Yeah. Because there will be something that touches you.
Sure.
For the artists, there's artists. For the musicians, there's musicians. For the peacekeepers, there are peacekeepers. There's so many different people around the world that are like into the things you're into. Yeah. In ways that would move you.
Sure.
If only they get a lot of support.
Sure. Then we should do that. Okay, so you've got, so you recently moved.
Yes.
Right? Tell me about this. From where to where?
From the East Coast to the West Coast.
Okay.
To your backyard. I'm thoroughly enjoying having the Pacific Coast. I actually moved because of the ocean. So I moved to California for the Pacific Ocean. Okay. Primarily. It's tough. It's expensive. Everything you've heard is true. But there was a memory that was lingering over from Rwanda, from my trips around Lake Kivu and the eucalyptus forest.
The lake that was like an ocean to you.
Exactly. And then the first time when I took the road trip where I was lugging buffalo manure for my mom, I landed in San Francisco and I smelled a eucalyptus tree. And I'm like, it's a familiar smell. Rwanda has tons of eucalyptus forests. Tons.
It's amazing how the olfactory can draw memories.
100%.
Interesting.
That, and it's not freezing cold where I am.
Sure.
So It's nice to be in
That is
sunshine.
nice. Yeah, that's what you pay for out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Got it. So any notable difference in the people?
Yeah.
In the cultures?
Slow down.
How so?
So I've been on metros in Washington, D.C., in New York, where people are not going to look at you. Public transit, where they're not going to look at you. Everybody mind their business. Everybody got something to do. You're not special.
Right.
I've said hello to people in the streets and got expletives on the East Coast. Not to say that I'm probably not going to get them. Who knows what kind of experience. But what I've experienced of California natives or the folks that I've encountered, they're pretty chill. I don't know if it's the ocean, but it's so calm where I live. People they will slow down and say hello.
Got it.
And that was so weird. The first time I said hello to someone and they were like actually addressed me, and I'm like, oh,
they answered back.
yes.
Now what?
That was fascinating. I mean, I'm not trying to talk bad about folks on the East Coast.
No.
But it's just, was
very different places.
Yeah. My kind of pace.
Yeah. That's for some. I've spoken to some that have the opposite experience.
Yeah.
They go to California and can't stand it.
Yeah.
They need the hustle and bustle. They like the energy. They like the efficiency. They like they don't like the slop, I guess. The hang out and chill attitude. I don't get it, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
So California, staying there for a while. What are we doing now?
It's my hope. So
Very good.
I'm trying to launch my practice.
Yes.
Bodywork and massage.
Let's talk about that. What are we doing now?
Same. So bodywork, I've trained in over 12 different modalities.
Yeah.
I've taught school out here in the East Coast. So I used to be an East Coaster too.
Yep.
But one of the things that I just want to be able to offer is how to hold the body in a very mindful way. Could be that through massage or just your intentional practice. If it's meditation, it's meditation. There's a way to make peace with your own body and your own being.
Yep.
So really, when I do body work and healing, I'm looking at it beyond just the body, but also your psyche, and how that you could do that through touch. You could do that through meditation, breath work.
Sure.
And so that's one of the things that I'm hoping to be able to share with people in my new state.
Sounds like a more holistic approach to
100%.
wellness as opposed to just massage. This
100%.
is a total kind of a larger, wider swath. I don't know how to quite put that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to cut that out. But yeah, this is a wider approach to kind of an all-encompassing. Hey, there's a lot more to you than just the touch side of it.
precisely.
Is this? Tell me about the practice itself. How do people get a hold of you if someone's watching this and wants to get with you? How do they do that?
So my website is bantuethos.com.
You're gonna have to spell that.
So Bantu, Bantu.
Okay.
Ethos, ETHOS.com.
Okay.
Might change, but that's what it is right now.
All right.
But essentially for me, you just call. Send me a message. I'm the one who's answering the message right now. So
Okay.
I haven't expanded the practice.
Very good.
Still trying to also get a feel of what people need there. So there's one thing to kind of show up and say, here, I'm going to give you all this, but is what you're offering what's needed there? I know that there's a lot of surfers and athletes where I live, and that's, it's good to work on them. But I also like to work on, I want to be able to offer massage eventually for folks who can't afford it and see if the community can support that.
Sort of a pro bono type
Yeah,
thing. Interesting.
yeah.
So you want to create almost a community sponsored wellness program for the underprivileged.
Correct.
Interesting.
Even a pay it forward. So
Because everyone needs touch.
Exactly. Just good, wholesome, positive touch. But I'm also a facilitator, and by training, Guilford College and the Conflict Resolution Resource Center taught me mediation and facilitation. Those are things that I'm getting into even more. So like right now, I also work with the National Student Leadership Conference, and summertime I go to different universities and I offer that work.
Okay.
But that's also something I want to be able to find a way to merge within the practice of what I'm building.
Sure.
It's slow, completely slow.
Okay. Is there you still do universities and talks? If someone were to want to have you out, how would they get a hold of you? Same way?
Same. Well, so for that one, you can just go to vitalakimana.com.
Okay. We'll put links up on the site.
But again, you will find me. There's no apparatus beyond me right now. So I welcome anyone who wants to invite me to their schools.
Sure.
I love working with youth, specifically that age group that is 16 to 20 some year olds that are trying to figure out language for peacemaking within clubs and activities and, whatever it is that they're getting into. I love that age. There's so much that I got accomplished when I was at that age.
Mm-hmm.
I was student body president, Guilford College.
Okay.
I have a concept of what you're experiencing when you first leave home and the reins have been removed and you can just kind of explore.
Go wild.
Yeah. I never did that. It was a Quaker campus.
Okay.
So that's my story. I'll stick to it.
Mm-hmm. Should we call them and find out?
Go for it.
Do a little background?
Go for it. I don't know who's still there.
Sure.
But I find that is such when we talk about the friction of possibilities, that is such an age where you want to learn what peacemaking is within yourself and with others. Because if you can get that at that level, you will get it the rest of your life, Those formative years,
that when you're really creating that core.
Exactly.
Interesting.
It's a nice little, juicy root to plant.
Sure.
Or seed to plant there. So when I'm with the students and I'm working on personality,
sure,
team building, understanding dynamics, conflict styles, these are things that matter to me. I know that it's so different from the world of massage, but for me, they make sense because it's all about holding space.
Sure.
So you can hold space with your hands, doing body work and helping to repair human beings, athletes, soldiers, I've done that. But you can also hold space for a mind, a mind in dysregulation if they're experiencing trauma, or a mind in conflict, or two individuals experiencing conflict. Those are two minds that you have the capacity to hold space for.
Yeah.
So I think ultimately what I'm doing is holding space.
Okay.
And then my third branch is storytelling. So for me, there's ways to be able to share our humanity, even the way we're doing it now. This is storytelling.
Yes.
So ways you can share your humanity with other people, your experiences, and ways to remember ancient lessons that allowed humanity to thrive in the first place. So Bantu ancestors and their stories matter. West African ancestors, South African ancestors. Africa, for me, is important. It has a lot of stories. And then uniting those stories with all the different groups of people I've met. Native Americans from the Midwest, Crow, Lakota, Navajo, Dene. So many stories. So there's a collective I'm working with called Voices from the Earth. You can find that. It's, my gosh, Ilene Evans is an incredible mentor.
From Voices of the Earth.
From Voices of the Earth. I think if anybody ever wanted to support something wholesome, worthwhile, that is not lost in politics or lost in whatever, that's it for me. So she's collected stories from all over, from West Virginia to the deep South.
And how do we experience those? How do we get a hold of those?
Just go to the website.
Go to the website.
Go to the website, and or you put in Ilene Evans and just support Ilene.
Sure.
She's incredible. She will dress up in this Chautauqua style acting. She will embody these figures whose stories people have forgotten.
I'd love to have a conversation with her. That sounds great.
I mean, I don't know what you're doing with me. But that's the person you should be talking to.
We'll give her a call, see if she'll come on.
So she put me, I'm a volunteer for Voices from the Earth.
Okay.
So you'll see my face working the farm on her website.
We'll put a link up and we'll see if we can get you some traffic that way. Very good. Very good, man. Well, the Western culture, America specifically, being allergic to any kind of new processes or medical, doing anything, everything gets, you look at anything Eastern that gets referenced like that and dismissed just as easily. I really hope you're able to penetrate some of that and get your message out, because I think the benefits of even getting a touch of your perspective would be huge for humanity. So I appreciate you. You've been very influential on me and my family. Yeah. And it's been really, really great, man. It's been nice knowing you.
I appreciate your friendship and you wanting to even just listen to my stories. If I haven't bugged you enough with them.
I love it. No, so honestly, it's a blessing. And it's some of these, of course, you and I have shared before, but even hearing them a second time is just as motivating and powerful. It's nice.
Thank you so much.
It really is. You are a bit of a beacon for some of us. So it's been very cool, man.
And I want to remind you, everybody have their own stories. Like you have a way in which you've navigated your own healing that matters to the world. You can create an insight for someone who won't be able to relate to me.
Sure.
And even this, like, I don't know how to do this.
Sure.
And this is your way. So like, there's so many things that I want to share with people that you matter. Like your story matters.
Sure.
We want that on the plate too. Right?
Everybody has a story.
Exactly.
Yes.
Everyone.
I like that. Because that's been one of our mottos here is everyone has a story. Correct. Right? And this is yours, but I like that you added an element to that I'll steal from you if you don't mind.
Sure.
Is your story. Everyone has a story, and your story matters.
Yes.
And that's what a message that could be as well.
Of course.
But what an empowering and enable. Your story matters. It's unique. There's no one on this planet that has the same story you do, and we all want to hear it.
Exactly.
Interesting. Very good.
And that's fundamentals of peacemaking. If we can all just slow down long enough to just hear each other's stories, there's magic to be created.
Very good.